Hello everyone! Welcome back to another Fallout 76 guide. In this one I will show you the best locations to farm experience while finding lots of legendary bosses as well. Stay tuned! We just had a triple experience weekend and I realized I don't have a guide with the best locations to farm experience. I have one where I show you how to boost your XP gain even further, which works like a charm with double or triple weekend events. Moreover, some of you asked me where to go in order to level up fast. So I decided to finally make a guide featuring the best places in game with dozens of high-level enemies who can also be legendaries. This way you can farm lots of experience while farming legendary items at the same time. So it's a very effective way of farming. Alright, while working on this video I had a triple XP bonus as well as 30% more from Well Rested, the Cranberry Relish, and the inspiration perk from being in a team, plus all the intelligence points from my wielding build that adds a bit more experience gain. I also made a guide map to let you guys know exactly where to go in order to farm experience, no matter the occasion. Now, most of these places should be very familiar to you. Note that each location has normally at least 30 enemies there, and they are the absolute best to farm experience in game right now. However, there are ways to make each run quicker and even more effective in some cases, by doing a few tricks. And no, I don't mean any exploits or glitches. Let me show you everything. Let's start at the bottom of the list. I think fissure sites are an easy way to find waves of enemies, especially if you are lucky or play in a 4-man team. And there is a high chance to find the Scorched Beast as a legendary from 1 to 3 stars. There are 15 fissures across the map, which means there is plenty of fissures to farm if that's what you want to do. I have a guide for fissures, so feel free to check it out for their locations and so on. Anyway, the trick here is to fully kill the spawn wave, then pick the ultracite ore in the floor, pick one, wait for a wave to spawn, kill it all, and then repeat. But it doesn't always work. In my case, it rarely spawns, but I know people who get it spawn all the time. Team members seem to increase the luck since they can also pick the ore, so the more, the better for this trick. If you are lucky, you can basically get several waves per fissure, so if you multiply that per 3 or 4, you hardly have to server jump to farm experience and legendaries. By the time you are done with the 10 fissure or so, I am sure the first one will be spawned back by then. So why is this at the bottom of the list if it works so well? You may ask me. It happens that for solo players or unlucky ones, this is really not reliable. I normally get 1 or no response at all per fissure, for example, so I rather farm other places that are more consistent. As I said, it is a little bit like gambling. It might work like wonders or not at all. So try it out and check if it works for you or not. The Encrypted event is a quite expensive one to start. If you don't know how to do it, I have a guide for it as well, so no worries there. But the main goal here is to farm as many robots as possible. Waves of them will keep spawning during Encrypted, and I know the imposter sheep squatch will most likely kill you over and over. That's why you need a team or a group of players to do it. But instead of focusing on the pylons and the boss itself, you should focus on the robots to farm as much experience as possible. Of course, this is quite annoying for everyone else who is just trying to complete the event, and soloing it is also not a great idea because the boss will find a way to kill you, believe me, whether it uses laser beams or just melee attacks. That's why the event is also at the bottom of the list. It can work, but it has a lot of requirements. Either way, you can get at least 1 legendary item here, maybe a rare outfit drop, and lots of experience for completing the event itself. So if you see it live, I would suggest you to just go ahead and do it. The total experience you end up earning is up to you though. Uranium fever is spreading all around. Seriously speaking, this event is amazing to solo for experience and of course to farm legendary items. You can find up to 3 legendary bosses per event and dozens of mole miners spawning in waves. Anyhow, if you do Uranium Fever alone, you can get a lot of experience for it, but that might be not easy to do. Soloing, that is. Now, if you end up in a busy event where other players want to hit everything, then farming experience will be challenging. Ideally, if you do this with other people, you want to equip a weak ranged weapon so you can poke as many enemies as possible, because you still earn experience when the enemies you hit die. That's a lot of work, I know, and you can easily miss a lot of enemies too. So yeah, in the end, doing this solo in a private server will get you the most experience for sure. But it's life, you do what you can with the resources you have. Just keep in mind, this is a very smart way to farm experience if you know how to take advantage of the event. The Big Ben tunnel doesn't have a very high chance to spawn legendary bosses, that's for sure. I find one every 5 runs or so, but on the other hand, it's a very quick straight run with dozens of high-level Scorched inside, so why the hell not? It's free experience, basically. You start by killing a handful of them at the entrance, then keep going forward once you reach the middle of the tunnel with the fork path, some buildings and containers. Just head left because there are some more Scorched to kill down this road, including a crowned enemy that can be legendary sometimes. That's about it for this location. There's lots of enemies condensed in one single location, and that's perfect for farming experience, especially because the main goal here is to get experience. Just follow the train track until you reach the other side of the tunnel, and then you can head to your next destination. Meanwhile, enjoy the easy experience. HARPER'S Ferry is one of my favorite locations to farm experience and legendaries because it's a very chill place, easy to navigate, and it has lots of enemies to feast on their experience. Basically, you take a full circle around the town from the spawn point, start at the train yard, then follow the road forward, where you can find some more enemies in the middle of the road. Be careful with the cars, they can easily explode and kill you. Then turn left, kill dozens of enemies around the workbench area, which could be Scorched, super mutants, or even ghouls. You can normally find a legendary boss around here. Then keep going forward until you find a fenced area, get inside with the key or by jumping over, and kill another group of enemies inside the church as well. Then close in towards the clinic, be careful with the turrets around, they can sneak on you if you just walk by. Moreover, you can also clean the enemies on the road towards the right side near the armory, which I didn't include in the footage. And that's pretty much it. There are dozens of mobs in HARPER'S Ferry, it's also a fairly quick run, and sometimes I find 2 or even 3 legendaries per run. It's also close to my camp, so I do come here quite often. I highly recommend it to you. Fort Defiance is like the jack of all trades and master of a very few in Fallout 76. You can basically find a little bit of everything in this location. Now, you can ignore the left wing from the entrance, there are some mobs there but very few, and they are normally animals like flies or mole rats, and you don't want to waste time with those, right? So, right side it is. Also, I advise you to come here in a team with the marsupial mutation boosted by the perk Strange in Numbers. Why? Because the right wing has several tiers or levels, a lot of broken floors, and it can be a hassle to navigate. So if you can just jump over from level to level, things become much easier to do. Head towards the right wing, and if you don't see any ghouls, fire once and wait a little bit. They will come to you. Some of them at least, and you can start taking them down from the very entrance as shown in the footage. It's a solid trick and it saves you a lot of time. Instead of checking room by room, you can just shoot and wait for them to come to you. Now, when you're done killing the initial waves, go forward to the next corridor and do the same trick. Then you can just jump through the levels and clean the entire wing in a few minutes. With this trick, the usual tedious run turns into a fast and exciting one. There is usually at least one legendary among all these ghouls. There are dozens of them. Also, you can either find a Wendigo or a glowing one at the very end of the wing. Now we have the infamous sewers, the burrows infested with ghouls, dozens and dozens of them. This place is a disgrace for my build because I use the high capacity backpack, which means these ghouls can inflict way more rads on me than they're supposed to. In other words, it's painful and very difficult for me to run the burrows. Still, I do it, I come here, I embrace the challenge, I die several times and I get out with lots of experience and some legendaries too. Yep, that's right, this place is one of my top locations to farm legendary bosses, and the best part is that there are over 40 ghouls in this entire place. Sure, it's a long run, there are lots of rooms and corridors, and sometimes you need to wait for the ghouls to crawl out of the holes, but I think in the end, it's still worth it. You can also pick up the gut rooms to make some soup, which gives you 5% more experience gain, and farm all sorts of scrap which is laying around. But using your VATS to spot ghouls in front and behind you is probably the smartest thing you can do here. It can get really, really tricky. Nonetheless, this is one of the best places to farm both experience and legendaries at the same time. This location never gets old, and it's probably that only place you visit every single day. I can't blame you for that though, because Westtech has dozens of high-level super mutants, which reward you with the awesome experience levels, and you can normally find several legendary bosses outside and inside this facility. I can't say this is a short run, but it's also not a very long one. Moreover, when a double or triple experience event is active, you can easily get alpha level with just one run. Make sure to kill all or most of them though. Don't forget both yards as well. It's ridiculous how much experience you can get from this place alone. This location is a top candidate for server jumping. You can do this over and over if your main objective is to just level up quickly, and you don't mind server jumping at all. Just make sure to bring a lot of ammo with you. These guys are tough, and melee weapons can slow you down when you are trying to do quick runs and get the most out of it. Just saying. Lastly, this is one of the best locations to farm legendaries, so expect several ones per run. That's the general rule. However, it doesn't mean you won't find runs with 5 legendaries and then runs with 0. It's the power of RNG. At WHITESPRING, that's where most action happens in most servers. This is a highly popular location and most people come here to farm legendaries because it has a high chance to spawn them. That's also why people tend to nuke WHITESPRING during experience events, so they can turn dozens of ghouls into glowing ones for extra experience and even more legendaries. This strategy works well, but mostly in private servers. Try nuking WHITESPRING in a full server and you will see that most people will go and stay there. Then, if you end up killing 10 glowing ones, that will be lucky. It's a strategy for private servers in my opinion. Anyway, you can find dozens of ghouls at the north WHITESPRING houses. You can do a full circle in the north and use the same trick. Shoot to lure them out of the houses, kill them in a line and proceed to the next houses. Don't forget the garage part in the middle of WHITESPRING, because there is another dozen of ghouls there and normally one of them is a legendary, so make sure to clean this part as well. It's a straightforward run, just very popular and often on cooldown, so you might want to resort to your private server to farm WHITESPRING if you have one, of course. Next, you can go to the WHITESPRING Golf Club, which is one of the most condensed locations in game. For this one, I basically stay at the door and do a blind hit to lure them out of the building. It's safer, it's faster, and it's really efficient. Just make sure to maintain a distance from the door and start killing them as fast as you can, because if they manage to get to you, it's going to be nasty. It will be a gangbang, and if you have explosive weapons like me, you will eventually die from the ghouls or from your own damage, even with fireproof on, because bloodied explosive weapon damage hurts like hell. So this is how I run the golf club. After killing dozens of them, I get inside to look for any silly ghouls who didn't feel like getting some fresh air. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and don't forget to check the bodies to look for legendaries. You can easily miss them in such a messy and quick combat environment. You can use your functional camera to identify legendary bodies on the floor. It's a very useful trick I use here as well. One of my favorite locations to farm experience and legendaries at the same time is at Charleston. Quite curious, isn't it? At the Capitol building, to be more specific. In here, you will find over 30 ghouls inside, and guess what? You can use the same trick that I showed you for the golf club. You stay at the main door and shoot, wait for them to come to you, take them down, then move forward, shoot again, run back behind the stairs, because there are lots of them in the superior levels, and wait for them to come to you. It's really simple. It takes some time because the ghouls need to first get up, then find the path to reach you, and sometimes they get stuck, so give it some time for them to get there. Or just rush it in, whatever works for you, really. I rather play it safer because ghouls can easily kill me, but this is a really great place for a quick run in terms of experience and legendaries. Normally you can do a full run in just 5 minutes, and that's amazing. It's another great candidate for server jumping over and over for some crazy amounts of experience. Try it out and see for yourself. Also, you might have to go upstairs if you want to kill every single ghoul left in the building. Using your practical camera will surely help you find legendary bodies among the piles as well. My number one is maybe your number one too. Launching nukes is not really fun, but doing Scorched Earth is one of the most efficient ways to earn experience and farm legendary items in one single place. Now, things can get tricky if people are focusing on taking the queen down, or if you meet cheaters who kill the queen in 2 seconds. But generally speaking, people take a few minutes to kill the queen, especially if she doesn't land, and during this time you shouldn't be focusing on hitting her. Instead, just hit it enough to ensure you get loot, then switch your focus to all the mob waves that spawn around the area. Hit as many mobs as you can, you don't have to kill them. Moreover, make sure you don't die so you can hit even more mobs. Remember that the event often auto-respawns you inside the nuked area and things can get really buggy. So hit them, move around, look for more, and just watch the experience bar rising like mad. I have done over 7 Scorched Earth events this past weekend, and I focused on killing the mob waves. I got several levels just from doing this. It's so easy and quick to level up during this event. Also, completing it gives you tons of experience. As you can see, I got almost 5k experience for completing the event with the triple XP buff on. Also, make sure to hit any Scorched beasts you see, since they give thousands of experience as well. And the event rewards always include a legendary armor piece and stable flux. It's a must-do event for both objectives, so make sure you don't miss it out. So, this is how I leveled up during the triple experience event. I actually started working on this guide at level 350, and a few hours later I was level 360. And no, I didn't play that much, I'd say 3 or 4 hours max. And I did a lot of other things, like selling items, sorting my inventory, and vending machines. Moving forward, if you are high level already and you want to boost your experience gain even further, then go ahead and launch a nuke at one of the top locations in this video, such as WHITESPRING or West Tech. However, this works best in a private server, as I mentioned before. Normally people will join and kill your glowing ones if you launch a nuke at WHITESPRING in Adventure. They stay there and wait for the respawn, so it's difficult to make it work in public servers. So that's why this strategy is not really on the list, because launching a nuke takes time. You also need a private server for it to work as intended, and I wanted to make an inclusive video for everyone, for new and veteran players. Alright, I'm going to announce my Easter event soon, in the following days, so stay tuned for the details. And that's going to be everything for now. I am Marta Branco, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this guide useful. If so, consider subscribing for more. I also have a Patreon page if you would like to support me even further, or you can just become a member in the channel. The links are right below the video. I hope you are doing fine. I will see you all very soon in the next one. Until then, take care. Adeus. Bye bye.